All right, so somebody went through the trouble of creating a URL endpoint, right, that mapped to some logic in the behind the scenes, right, that parsed that URL and execute it, and then retrieve the data based on whatever parameters you gave it into their database. So we would like to be able to do similar things, right? If we have our own databases and we want other folks, our providers, our partners to be able to integrate with our own databases, we need to expose whatever data points, whatever data set we have, whether it's relational or non-relational, to make it available out there for folks to be able to use it. So to be able to do that in Java, there are specific libraries and infrastructures that are designed specifically for this purpose. One of them is the JAX-RS library, right? RESTful services. There's another one called JAX-WS, right? That uses I would say a kind of an older standard. It's still around. It's still valid, and it's a precursor to this one, right? It's the one that kicked off the web services revolution way at the end of the last century. Many vendors kind of competed to see who made it easier for their users, for their developers to build a RESTful web service. Okay, and but this has kind of superseded that technology, and it's become more and more prevalent today. So anyway, so the JAX-RS is a set of libraries. Here I have a link to the libraries that you'll need to install, because this one is going to do a little bit of magic here. That it's going to able to map a data model that is defined in Java, right? That perhaps is fully it's fully organized into how do you say that? Normalized. Has been normalized into various objects that contain other objects that have child and parent relationships, perhaps even with inheritance. And so we need to be able to map those data objects to the raw JSON, right? Right now we're dealing with just plain old raw JSON. And so we need to be able to map these two worlds between them. Remember, a lot of dealing with data, right, is that it's just represented in so many different ways. It could be represented in XML, it could be represented in Java, it could be represented in JSON, it could be represented in relational databases, right? And we're going to find ourselves that a lot of that we're going to be transforming between all these various representations. So anyway, so these are some of the libraries that are going to automate some of this mechanism, right? Next week, we're going to look at automating the conversion between a Java data model and a relational data model, right? Today, we're going to look at being able to convert between a Java data model and a JSON data model or an XML data model. We did some of that earlier when we looked at XML, right? And some of these libraries are the same libraries we looked at when we were playing around with XML, right? Here's an XML document and mapped to a Java data model, right? So here is a perfect use of those libraries, right? Here's some XML that is being sent over. I want to parse it and convert it into Java. So let's take a look at this. Here, they just walk you through. We're walking you through setting up your web project, setting up a web service example, and adding several of these libraries to the Java build path, and also adding it to your server. In this particular case, either Tomcat or whatever it is that you're using. I think we're using Tomcat. Another thing that we'll need to be able to configure is that we want to define these URLs patterns, right? And we wanted to map them to some executables, right? That when they execute, they return some data. Okay. So what we're going to do is that the main mechanism in the Java world, right, to handle any URLs and map them to some executable, right? The framework that does that is servlets. Servlets is the main mechanism that allows you to define some pattern, some URL, right, and then map it to some executable, and say, okay, execute this code when this URL comes into the server. So you can write your own servlets, right? And I believe we did this early on in the course, and that was a fairly low-level way of doing it, right? And that still works, right? That's perfectly fine. But JAX-RS encapsulates this mechanism, this low-level servlet idea. It encapsulates it and with the idea of RESTful services, right? That we're going to follow these patterns, right? These RESTful patterns. We like to be able to parse those path parameters. That typically there'll be IDs, right? Foreign keys and primary keys. We like to parse them out, and then execute something on the server for those. So we're going to grab this. Actually, first let me make sure that I have these libraries installed in my own in this project. Let's go in here and let's go into our build path and let's see if we have these libraries. Okay, looks like we don't have any of those libraries. Okay, so great. I'll configure it now. Let's see, which ones do we need? We need Jersey bundle. Okay, we'll add these external libraries, and I have them under my lib directory. Let's see, Jersey bundle 1.18. Do I have it here? Yeah. There it is. So we'll grab that. I need JSR 311. So let's add that one, 311. If you're familiar with Maven and you'd rather do a POM file, that's even better, right? If you're familiar with that, I would suggest do that instead. So JAX-B, let's have that as well. JAX-B, there it is. JAX, where is it? There it is. We'll need also JAX-B impl. Let's add as well JAX-B impl. There it is. Add that. And we'll need ASM. There it is. Right version? Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. All right, I think that's it. So we have those libraries all set up. And now we're going to set up our servlets. And basically what we're going to do is that we're going to configure a servlet and tell it, hey, you're going to handle all the requests. Right? You're going to handle all the requests that are prepended with a particular namespace, right? Meaning all the following requests, right, are going to be for data. They're going to be asked for data, not a particular index file. So, for instance, here's an index file that I can certainly run it. Let me see what's in this index file. There's a hello world, and we can run it, and we can just say run this on the server, run on the server. And this is a legitimate request to the server, right? But this request is typically a consumable by some human being, right? There it is, hello world. Right? This is meant to be consumed by a human being, right? It's ASCII code. It has format. It has an exclamation point, right? This is meant to be consumed by a human being. And the URL is mapped to index.html. If it's HTML, it means that it's meant to be executable, consumed by a human being. We would like to be able to explore integrated with non-human beings, right? Folks that might create a program that interacts with us and retrieves data programmatically, yes? So not generate HTML, we want to generate data. So we'd like to be able to distinguish between human consumers and non-human consumers, all right? So to do that, we're going to define a namespace. We're going to say that anything that is prepended, any URL that is prepended with either /API or is prepended with /REST or slash data, anything we can agree on, right, with my users, will be mapped to executables that are meant to go back with data, right, that is meant to be consumed by some other program. Make sense? Right? So let's do that. And we're going to add it to our web.xml. Our web.xml is where we configure servlets and whatnot. And there they are. We're going to give it a name, a Jersey servlet. It doesn't really matter as long as we're consistent, but this is a very common name for this servlet. And it's implemented in this class. This class is in one of those libraries we added. Okay. If it can't find this class, it'll complain, and then we can configure it. We're configuring saying all the executables are going to be part of this package. Meaning, if I want to add an executable that is mapped to some URL, I better put it in that package. Right? So my servlet, this servlet is going to look in this package for any classes that want to execute mapped to a particular URL. Make sense? Right? Okay. All right. And finally, we're going to map it. I'm going to say that servlet we just created, we want it to be executed only. Oops. No, copy, paste. There we go. We're saying that Jersey servlet that I just declared earlier, I want it to execute with any URL that starts with API, but whatever, it doesn't matter what comes after that, right? If it starts with an API, I'm going to handle it. And what is it going to do? Depending on what follows after this first slash, it will look inside of this package to see if there are any Java classes that are mapped to some URL that matches whatever follows the API. Everybody okay? All right. All right, so let's create our very first class. It better be inside of this package. Let's put it inside of the package. So let's create here a brand new class, and the package is experiment.webservices jaxrs. Right. So first, let's create a. First let's create a movie class in that package. Right. Well, it doesn't matter where we put it. Right. Well, we'll put it inside of that package, and will be movie. The class will be movie, and we don't need a main. We'll say finish. There's our movie. So this is going to represent our movie, the ones we've been playing around with for the last half hour or so. Right. And what do we have in there? Our data model. We have IMDb's title, poster, and maybe reviews. Let's just start with something simple like IMDb titles and poster URLs. So let's put that in there. And let's create the getters and setters that go along with this. So we'll go to our source, generate setters and getters with IMDb and poster. Let's generate that. We can also generate the constructors that go along with this. With all the fields, plus we'll generate the ones with no fields. Where is it? Oh. With no fields, deselect all of them. Okay, there we go. All right, so we got that. And now let's also, I believe, okay, we're going to create movies that also have reviews, which our data model earlier did not have. So let's create the reviews now. Review in that package, that same package. So say new class review, and it's going to have the following data model with all the setters and getters. So let's do that. Let's add these setters. And setters and getters, and plus we'll generate the constructors that go along with that. Plus the no argument constructor. And let's generate one more. that has maybe just a title and just a title. Okay. All right, there we go. So we have that. Let's extend our movie to contain a list of reviews. So it'll be a collection of review. So these are reviews. I can't type. Reviews. Okay. And collection, we'll need to import that. And we'll need to grab the setter and getter for reviews. And say OK. All right, there we have it. We have the data model, movies, and their reviews. Let's now focus on being able to expose this. We would like to be able to have other folks be able to look at all the list of reviews and movies. First of all, we're going to annotate these classes, just like we did when we were doing XML. Remember, right? We were parsing this into a Java class. And vice versa, we go from XML to JSON to Java, or from Java to XML. So same thing, we're going to annotate these as elements. Please. Let's load this annotation, and same thing with the review. Oops. Let's bring that annotation. There we go. All right, so now that we've annotated, let's now map it to a path, right? So we like to folks that if we want to access movies, it'll be something like /API/movie. Which movie? Well, we might decide that this is a list of movies or it's a particular movie, right? It depends. So let's see. Let's create a new class called the movie web service. That's an appropriate name. It's in the same directory. New class. Right, and we're going to map it. We're going to map it to the /movie. So /API/movie. Right. If someone comes with that URL, this class they're referring to this particular class. Right. So we annotate it, saying that this is part of that path, right? Notice that it's in the correct package. It's in the correct package over here, right? Right, that package, there it is. So we know that this particular class is being watched by our servlet. So if it's /API, our servlet will catch it. If it's /movie, this one will catch it. Will be redirected here. So there it is, Java XWRS path. Let's see, what else? Let's keep going. Right, so it's this /movie maps it to API movie. We're then going to say, well, we can create here a function, public movie, get movie as JSON. We would like to maybe create a movie instance, new movie, and return that movie. Right? So we'd like to be able to make this available to folks that might want to ask for this. So how do we do that? So we can configure that. We can map it to a particular path. Right? Path allows you to build what the path should look like. Right? That maps to this particular endpoint. Right? So this one here would be /API, API/movie/JSON. Right? This one maps to just /API, just movie, right? Where API comes from having configured it inside of the web.xml, right? This API right here. Okay? Then we can configure how is it that we want to convert it into, what media type do we want to convert it? And we can say that it produces that particular media type, application JSON, or you could use application XML, right? It'll convert it into that correct data type. We'll need to import these guys, so we'll import media type. Oops, wait. not create. Why can't it find it? Well, first let's do produces here. Import produces. There it is. And let's import media type. Import media type. There it is from core. There we are. And finally, we're going to map it to get. Right? We can map it to a post, a put, a delete, a get. Right? So this is going to be an HTTP endpoint mapped to this URL, and it has to be a get. Right? If you set post to this URL, this get will not execute. Right? This function will not execute. All right, let's create a movie. Aliens. Is that a valid constructor? Do I have a constructor that takes just a title? I don't. Okay, let's create one just that takes just a title. So string title this title equal title. Right, and then we'll just return that movie with that one title. Okay, all right. All right, that's it. That's really all there is to. Let's try it out. Let's see if this blows up. Do we have the server running? Let's see. Where's my server? Here's a server. It already started. Okay, so let's see. Do we have an index page? We did. Was it running anywhere? I think this is mapped to. Let's take a look at. Let's run the index page here. Let's see what this is mapped to. Run and the server. Come on. There it is. If we can access it from outside, from the browser. Let's take a look at over here. There's our index page, and we should be able to say API, right? Then what was it? Movie, and then JSON. And there it is. It comes back with aliens, right? Only with the data that we gave it, right? As a JSON object. Or we can create also an XML version of this, right? With a movie where this would look exactly the same way, right? But we'll map it to something else, XML, right? And instead of generating JSON, we can say generate instead application XML. Where are you? Application XML. There it is. And instead of being called get movie as JSON, we'll call this get movie as XML. The name of the function doesn't really matter, right? It's arbitrary, right? It's just being mapped to the URL. So instead, if we ask for JSON, we ask for XML, right? It returns movie and then the title as aliens, right? Notice that XML is a little bit more verbose in that it wraps the data with the name of the class that contains it, right? With our JSON doesn't, right? All right, so there you have it. We can certainly go further and make it more extensive because notice that movies has a one-to-many relationship with reviews, right? So let's explore that notion and how they're both the similarities and differences on how this is encoded either on XML or JSON, right? So let's do that next.